Okay, everybody. Gonna do a set of H&R springs and Coney adjustable sport struts in the Cayman S. I already did the right front, so let's go over here real quick. I already got this side apart. The strut's just hanging out up in there from the strut mount. It's hanging here. I just wanted to take and do the other side, kind of take my take on it. I found pretty simple way of doing this, a lot easier than, say, compressing the spring at the while it's inside the car and then trying to muscle it out. So what I will be doing, I'm going to set the camera up right here and kind of go through it. I'll grab the camera from time to time and do a close-up of what's happening. But first things first, grab just a short pry bar. I get in here, get on the metal surface of the pad and just kind of push away a little bit against the rotor. Compress your, what we're doing is we're compressing the cylinders just slightly so that when we undo the bolts, that will come off easily. Next thing is we are going to remove the brake pad sensor wire and the wheel speed sensor wire. Get those detached. Take our 10mm socket. We're going to remove the harness here. Just let that hang. Next, we will take the same one and remove our bracket on the back side that holds the soft line to the hard line on the caliper. And that's loose now. The wires here are loose. I have a 10mm Allen wrench. I don't have the appropriate bit for my ratchet, so we're just going to take and use it. If they were a little bit tighter than this, I would take and maybe put a wrench, a boxed end wrench on the end of it for added leverage, which you can do. And you can do this with any wrench too. Just put it on there, get some leverage, and you can break it free. Okay, so once the caliper carrier bolts are removed, you want to remove the caliper and get it away from the assembly. But to do that, a lot of people are suggesting we just set this down on something. I have a little different take on that, because if we set something in there to set that on, it gets in the way. I always like to hang calipers and stuff when needed. So I've got a piece of stainless wire. We're going to wrap it around so I loosened the nut that holds the fender liner here, the top inner one. And we're going to wrap the wire around that stud a couple times. Now we've got a hanger we're going to push the wire through the mounting hole on the caliper. We're going to pull it up. We're going to stretch that up to that again and just twist it around, and it'll be fine. Just like that, it's not going to go anywhere. If you really are paranoid, just take your ratchet and socket, just tighten down that nut, just kind of pinch those wires down so they'll unravel. But they shouldn't unravel anyway. Next, we've got our harness here, and it's in the little bracket on the back. Now you can try and wrestle it out of there, or just take a small screwdriver and get back behind the grommet and just kind of pry it out. Do that without harming anything. And it's a lot easier, actually, and there's a lot less chance of damaging anything. Just like that. Drop that down, let it hang. Next, we're going to pull the rotor off. We put our Phillips bit in our impact and buzz the screws out. Pull the rotor. Next, pull the dust shield. I could do this with the impact too. I could take and put it on the impact wrench. I'm kind of old school. I started wrenching when I was a kid, and that was about 30 years ago. So I'm still partial to the manual way. I have a 1/4 inch electric ratchet that I could use. It would sure make this fit easier because they're a little tight. As you can see, just not having it firmly on there. Slip the ratchet, but looks like these are held in with a little bit of blue Loctite. I don't know if that's OEM or not. I'm going to assume it is. I'm going to assume no one's had this apart. The car only has 60,000 miles on it. And luckily enough, we live in the Pacific Northwest. If you don't drive winter roads, then you don't have to deal with any rust or corroded parts. Next, 18 millimeter, going to buzz this tie rod end off. Take the nut, get it loose, but I'm going to get it just to the point that the nut and ball joint shaft are flush. I'm just going to knock this down. If this was steel, you could hit it with the 5-pound or 3-pound sledge right here, and it would shock this and actually release the taper. But with it being aluminum, I haven't found that it works quite the same. So just hitting it here, knocking it loose, grab your impact, buzz it the rest of the way off. Nickel forts always typically sacrifice these boots. We don't want to do that. Next step is our end link for our tie rod or sway bar, the end link for the sway bar. Now a lot of people will take and they need to go get that thin wrench. I've been able to loosen and tighten it with the impact. The thing is, the impact will spin that nut faster than that actual ball can rotate. which is designed to rotate. You're not hurting anything by rotating it a little bit. You don't necessarily have to hold that with a wrench. Volkswagen Audi use the same tie rod or sway bar end links. You can get away with that pretty easily. Okay, so we have this loose. Next is I'm going to take out the stabilizer bar that holds everything square here between the hub assembly and the lower control arm. That's an 18 millimeter right down here at the bottom. So what I found is I can't really get at that directly. There's an access hole, but sure enough, that access hole is partially covered by the lower body plating, underbody plating. So I am gonna have to take and let's see if I can set this up here so you guys can see what's going on. I'm gonna set that here. I don't know how well you can see, but I am going to remove the screws so I can remove that bolt.